Hello there, my interesting and inquisitive internet denizens. Welcome to another episode of Debate Dissection, where we take apart the latest and greatest debates from the internet. And today we have with me my wonderful co-host, Ember. Hello, Ember. How are you today?
Hello. Doing pretty good. Had a nice time
Pretty good.
with my son today, and ready for some classic debate action in this case.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. Because we have a very special guest, which is Godless Engineer, John. How you doing, John? How you feeling today?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a pretty full day today. And right before this, I
Yeah,
actually went on a run. I say went on a run. I ran around my living room. We got a pretty big open, like sort of plan for our living
yeah,
room.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I can just run around that. I've got like a little track thing that I run. So I ran for
Hmm.
about 45 minutes or so. And
Oh,
so
cool.
yeah. So
You're
it's
making me
doing
feel very unfit and very unhealthy. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Well, see, I'm on this whole weight loss journey, which I know probably a lot of
Mhm.
people don't know that I've been going through this. I had a bariatric surgery last October. It's actually coming up on a
Yep.
year now. I had it last October, and I in the process I've dropped like 90 pounds, and so I'm struggling to
Wow.
get over that last little bit here. I've been at a plateau for a few months, so I'm trying to get over
Yep.
that.
Yeah,
Relatable.
yeah, that's hard work too. Is that the stomach sleeve, the bariatric? Is that the have I got the
No,
right one there?
well, yeah. So the sleeve is the one that I did, and that's where they
Yeah.
basically cut out like 80% of your stomach, and they make your
Yep.
stomach into like just this sleeve. And so it's
Mm.
like really reducing how much your stomach is. But I didn't do that for the weight loss. It has a lot. It has a lot of amazing side effects for
Yep.
diabetics. And
Mm.
one of the things is that if you're severely insulin resistant, it can actually really taper that down a lot. And so, like, that's the reason why I did it, and of course the weight loss helps too, but reducing that how much insulin I use was a really big
Mm.
part of it. And I went from using this like ultra concentrated form of insulin because I needed so much insulin. I went
Yep.
from using that to using like less than 100 units of normal insulin a day, and
Oh,
I
that's
was
really
using like,
good. Yeah.
yeah, 300 of like ultra leaded insulin a day is what I was using. And so it's reduced down to like 100, less than 100 units sometimes of insulin a day. So like my insulin, I'm still a little resistant, but it's really worked its way down.
Well, congratulations, mate. That's really good. It really annoys me when people are like, "Oh, you've had some sort of surgery and it's helped with like you're cheating." And it's like, wait a second, do we like that's do we go to people who are trying to quit smoking going, "Oh, you're using the gum. That's cheating." Like, come on now. Like
Yeah.
it's such a like you're not allowed to use medical assistance to help you with an obvious, medical problem. That's just cheating.
Well,
Crutches,
yeah. And
cheating.
yeah, and I mean the thing that makes it harder for like diabetics is that insulin's a hormone, and when you have to like
Right.
flood your system with insulin, that causes you to retain fat like easily. So like when I got put on insulin, I gained like 50-75 pounds like in a matter of months, and then like it just every time they changed my medication, I would gain weight and all this other stuff, and so like it was really hard like they're
Yeah.
starting out, but I've got really good doctors now and everything, and so we're working on it. I've actually got a diabetic doctor's appointment on Monday, and I'm gonna see if they can help me with the weight loss stuff.
Okay. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I unfortunately I've sort of got the kind of physique that weight has never been putting on weight's been my problem, but as I've gotten older, that's kind of settled itself
Mark,
as we all
that's
know.
that's fucking ableist, Mark, and I take that
I
personally.
Yeah. How
okay,
how
well,
dare you? You
well, it's
upside down
interesting.
man.
I know. Frigging Australians, we're just so damn cheeky. Look, I think that it's some in some ways it has been a detriment because while I've been young, I've gone, well, I don't need to exercise. I can eat however I want. And then as you get older, that's sort of, oh wait, I can't do that anymore, and you have to completely change your lifestyle. You're like, that doesn't
Yeah.
work anymore. So yeah, it does not last forever, but I'm glad you're feeling well, and you look fantastic. So it definitely is working. And let's face it, that's also a side effect of losing weight. You look a lot better. I remember when I was working out, which I've got to go back to doing that. I felt a lot, lot healthier, and that's really what is the important thing. I will get this debate up if you're ready to go. I hope you like my background, the Nia's diagram of the arc. I will let you know, John. Your camera is freezing every so often or something. It's not a big problem. We can all hear you. That's not uninterrupted. It might not be an issue. Just letting you know if that's
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Like, I've used a couple different browsers, and this has been the best sort of setup. So I
okay.
think this is as good as I can get it. So I'm so
Well,
sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
No, not at all. It's just there's no problem with your sound whatsoever, and that's the important part. We want to hear from you. So this was a debate that you did with on Modern Day Debate, which I frequent occasionally, with Kent Hovind, who, when he did used to go outside of the echo chamber that is standing for truth, and do some debates on some other platforms. And my first thought was this will be interesting because we see Hovind's arguments where like they're always the same, they haven't changed. But this will actually, because this was how long ago? 4 years, 5 years ago, something like that.
It was like I think it was like 2018 or 2019. I think it was 2019.
Right.
So I think it was 5 years ago.
Well, I also want to say, that long ago, you're sort of paving the way for people like me and people like Ember, because, we're now getting into the debate scene. It's very fascinating. How long have you actually been doing this, John? Like, how long have you been?
Well, like, so how long have I been sort of engaging in the discussion, or how long have I been publicly like sort of participating in debates? Because it's kind of
public participation, the sort of putting yourself out there for the world to see your arguments, I guess.
So I mean, I created my Facebook page, which was my first endeavor into it. I created that in 2012. That was just after I graduated with my master's in software engineering. And so like, I don't know how many people that are watching that have been through engineering school, but it consumes every spare moment of your life. And so like when I graduated, I found a ton of time on my hands. I had a solid job and everything like that. And I was often bored, like either at my job or at home. And so I found myself where I was like, well, I'll start a page, because like I started pissing off family members because I wasn't religious, and so like I started pissing off family members. So I'm like, I should probably make a page, and I'll just unleash my atheism on the page, and then people that want to tune in, they can tune in and everything. And so like I started doing that, and then about maybe a year or two in, I got this criticism like, oh, well, it's easy for you to shit talk God behind an avatar. Well, I was using a QR code.
Keyboard warrior.
Yeah, I know. And so like I was like, I can fucking do video. And so I made a video. And so like my first video on my channel is like, it's very like angry atheist. I would probably classify it as cringy kind of thing. And so, like I've definitely evolved. Like if you go back and watch my earlier stuff, it's much different than the stuff that I'm doing now. Especially lately, because I've been doing a lot more conversations with just general people, which is what I really like. I really like just engaging with people on a more personal level, like one-on-one with like their actual arguments, because I find that the arguments that people put out there, like in videos, can oftentimes like deviate from what people actually come to a discussion with. And so I like engaging with what people actually think proves their point, is kind of the way I see it.
Belief. Yeah, totally get it. Well, so debate dissection, we're focused on just cutting apart debates, just breaking them down. We may have sort of criticisms or things, but it's not to say, hey, you did a terrible job. It's more to say, hey, how do we address this man in the future? Because go ahead.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just want to say that there was a lot of contention around this debate for me. personally, because I was embroiled in some YouTube drama at the time that came up just after this debate happened. And so like pretty much everybody was of the opinion that I lost this debate hands down. But I can't actually, anytime anybody says that, and I ask them to tell me what did I get wrong, like what was wrong with my presentation, or what was wrong with what I said in response to Kent, and they can't actually, tell me what was wrong. They just tell me that I lost. And this is even atheists at the time too. Atheists said that I just I managed to lose against Kent Hovind. And I don't think that's true. But more importantly, anybody that has come to me like a year or more after the debate and after all of the drama kind of subsided, they're like, I can't actually say how you lost that debate. And like, you seem to do fine in it. It was I don't know what I was thinking. And so like, I've only heard people retract their statement. So I am very interested to hear any kind of constructive criticism about either my arguments or how I handled Kent. This is the debate that famously has Kent bringing up whale penis for no reason, it seems. And so like, this is the origin of that.
I am all on board for the whale penis. I'm there already.
I am excited.
My body is ready. I tried to get the most phallic thumbnail as possible, and I think I did it. But yeah, let's start it off. And yeah, I'll be absolutely honest, but sort of we've got to keep in mind, and a lot of people watch Kent's debates and they say, oh, that's easy, I could do that. You cannot imagine how slippery this man is. Like, he is really hard to pin down, and he has a number of tactics in order, really dishonest tactics in order to facilitate his dodging and ducking and evading. So don't think that it's just a cakewalk. It really is not. Just because he's slippery as an eel. And we'll probably see that. I must admit, I didn't get too far into this. I wanted my sort of original reaction, so I just sort of skimmed through and got the meat of the debate. But let's head it off, and feel free to jump in anytime. I'll try to pause it for any commentary or whatnot. Starting with Kent, I think.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on the program. My name's Kent Hovind. I was a high school science and math teacher 15 years. For the last 30 years, I've been an evangelist defending the Bible as being scientifically accurate, and the evolution theory as being the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of humanity. And those are the nice things we say about it. Yes, I believe the Bible is clear. There was a flood. The Bible says the earth was corrupt before God, and all flesh had corrupted his way. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh is coming. Make an ark. And so they read Genesis chapter 6 and 7 and 8. The Bible could not be more clear. There was a flood. So Noah built a big boat. According to the Bible, Noah was about 600 years old when he went on the flood in the ark. Before the flood, the Bible teaches the people clearly lived to be, 900 years. That's what the Bible says.
Clearly.
Well, why start with the Bible? Like, why? It's sort of like, well, the Bible says. Who cares?
That's exactly what it is. It's the Bible says that he was 600 years old, so therefore he was 600 years old. Like, I don't understand why Kent thinks that this is a convincing argument. Like, I feel like you got to prove that humans can live to 600 years old. Like, I can't think of an organism on Earth that can verifiably live that long, just in general. And so it's like, why?
Well, John, I've got this book that says a thing, and it says a whole bunch of other, even more unbelievable things, which clearly means it's true, right?
Obviously. I mean, I can write on a napkin about how Pickle Rick saved the universe, and I guess that means we should all praise Pickle Rick.
Clearly, Pickle Rick saved the universe. Yeah, and it's kind of like, I want theists to understand this. To us, that's like saying, well, clearly my book says that fairies have butterfly wings, clearly. And it's just like, why? What?
Well,
unless you
Mark,
already believe it.
There is evidence of nil. That
Yeah, I just saw it fly by. Absolutely.
That's right.
Or him or her or whatever nil. What are Nil's pronouns anyway? I don't know.
I just kind of low-key assumed to her because it looks kind of feminine, but I mean, it is a great not God and creator of creator gods, so it's kind of beyond gender,
It transcends gender. Okay, gotcha.
I totally agree with that. It definitely transcends gender.
Them, they is fine with me. Not a problem at all.
And there are hundreds of legends of a flood, of a golden age when man used to live to be 1,000. And so I think that the Bible says, 900 some, but still there's much historical evidence that indicates there was a time when man lived a long time, 900 years. And after the flood, the people's lifespans dropped off to 400, then 200, then 100. But if you read through the story, the Bible clearly teaches there was a flood. Second bit of
Isn't
evidence.
that
for a flood,
weird, though?
If someone such as John.
The creationists will always tell us that it was the contamination from original sin building up across the generations that caused the decrease in lifespan. Why did it wait until after the flood to start decreasing lifespan, when the point of the flood was to purge the wickedness from the world? Why did the wickedness reach a point higher than before the purge after the purge? What's up with that?
I don't know, but I just want to point out, I think that he I don't know if that's a picture from this book. Y'all can't see. Hold on one second. Let me yeah. So I've got Ken Ham's book Dinosaurs of Eden here, and it kind of looked like the artwork that's up there is kind of like that, and like it's full of like really great artist renditions. Like here's the Cain and Abel story. I don't know if you can see too well, but basically Cain killed Abel while like is that an oviraptor.
Oh, it's an oviraptor. Yeah, right.
Oviraptor watches, and then there's a protoceratops that's attacking a velociraptor there, and they're all watching Cain kill Abel. So, like, obviously, it's written in a book, therefore, it's true.
Oh, I forgot that verse in the Bible. Like, and lo, the oviraptor took eggs while Cain struck Abel to the side of the. What the hell?
I know. Like I don't know how you missed it. Also, like in this, it's got like they should Stargate. Whoever made Stargate, MGM or whoever, should really fucking sue Ken Ham for this. But like they get basically a Stargate that's called the Bible Time Gate, and they go back in time and they see the Garden of Eden where T-Rexes are eating fruit. And I'm not even joking about that. Like there's a page where there's a T-Rex. Look at this motherfucker. He is literally like, maybe I can get that. He's literally an ape. Like you can't tell him from a fucking Planet of the Apes, like ape that like does like fucks up humanity. But,
he's Dr. Zaius.
Yeah. Like look at this shit. These fucking animals, like this guy right here, like eats fruit apparently. Like I don't even know. I don't even understand. I don't know. This entire diatribe's going off of the page that he's got there. I don't even think it's from this book, but like that's the level that we're working with here.
It's around there, but there's so much irony with it. First of all, the whole Bible time machine thing. Look, we're going to verify this fictional book with yet more fiction, but also the delicious irony. AIG, for anybody who doesn't know, if any creators out there will definitely know, if you do a response video to AIG, you will get copyright claims immediately, all the time. It's wild. And so the fact that they're so IP protective, even to the point of violating fair use, while at the same time stealing somebody else's IP so blatantly, is just wild to me. The hypocrisy never ends.
I think they'll get a fair use on parody, but still, it is kind of annoying.
Is it parody though?
Maybe. I don't know. This is the man that argues against evolution, which is just hilarious in itself.
No, come on. Now he's Australian, right? He's like yours, Mark, right?
We're not taking him back, John. You can forget about it. Like, there's no way.
You're like he went to Kentucky.
No.
Says there was no flood. He needs to just understand. I'm sure he does. You're saying the Bible is lying because the Bible clearly says there was a flood. So it's you versus the Bible, and that's your position to take that if you'd like. Number two, there are over 50 now flood legends that have been discovered. One of the speakers that's coming to speak at our boot camp this weekend, Friday night, Saturday, and all day Sunday, or all day Saturday and Sunday morning, is Paul Abramson, who has a collection on his website, creationism.org, and you can read all the flood legends. Some are,
buy my DVDs.
Yeah, buy my DVDs.
Less than 2 minutes.
Yeah. They don't match up. Like, sort of, so one of the flood legends he refers to is like the flooding of the Yellow River in China, but that doesn't line up with the date of the biblical flood. It's at a completely different date. And it was a flooding of the Yellow River. It didn't say that every land was flooded. It was just the Yellow River that flooded. So Japan doesn't have any flood legends. They have stuff for tsunamis, but not floods. Like not major floods that have covered the land, and the amount of civilizations that have gone through the flood, apparently completely unaffected by the flood, like the Egyptian civilization. We've got a line of the old dynasty going back through the flood. Like, we know that they did not get interrupted by a flood. So ridiculous. They just picked a whole bunch of floods from around the world and said, "Oh yeah, if you like squint and look at it really, really like from one side,
it's even worse than that."
Typically, my response to that is like, "Oh, you mean to tell me that civilizations near major bodies of water, experience floods? Can you show me where like a civilization that was not like near a flood zone?" or not near a body of water that would have produced a flood or experienced a flood, like, the middle of Mongolia, or like the middle of Africa, or like the middle of anywhere that's miles away from like coastline. And I doubt that if you compared all of the flood stories that actually exist, you'll find that they are near major sources of water that would have produced a flood in one way or another.
Shockingly enough. But Mark, your mention of Egypt reminds me of another facet, one entailment of the Bible being completely true. If the flood did happen and the Tower of Babel happened, then the languages got confounded. But Egypt has records that not only go through when the flood was supposed to happen, but clearly show they're using the same language throughout that entire period. And in India, there are records that go back before the flood, and they're a different language. And
Ember, you're using logic and like reason, and that just doesn't work when you're talking about the Bible.
I'm cheating. You cheat by medical means. I cheat by using logic. We're all we're horrible sinners up in here.
Grab a crutch, everybody. We're using logic and reason. That's
Fuck us.
What the Beck says, that not sure who keeps buying me readerships, but thanks. Yeah, that was who did the last one? That was oh god, I've forgotten who it was. Somebody gave a 50 readership kind of thing.
Oh, Eric Wander. He's been dropping 50s.
Yes, on
a couple of our communities lately.
So odds on it's Eric Wander, and if I get 13 more readerships, I get to do another emoji, which is going to be Bogan Logic. So if you want a Bogan Logic emoji, then definitely have a readership.
Yeah, so on my channel, I actually have a eggplant emoji that's in the shape of a whale, and so that's because of this debate.
That's beautiful. Mark Agamotto 1313 Smith for $2. The North have a flood myth, do they? Not to my knowledge. Yeah. They have one where Thor fights the Jormungand, the world serpent, but not a flood one, as far as I know.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, I mean, they definitely would have been at least that people group, I think, would have been living during the time that the flood supposedly happened, but yet they don't have a flood myth. It's kind of weird, isn't
it? But for 17 months, drop readerships for Bogan. Thanks. Yeah, everyone loves a Bogan. One sec.
Tweet beyond reality, but that's normal for a legend to get twisted over the years. But why would there be 350 cultures around the world still talking about a time when the world was destroyed by a flood? The Hawaiian legend.
Well, they don't talk about a world being destroyed by a flood. That's the thing. The Yellow River, they're not talking about the world. They're talking about the Yellow River. Like, this is the thing. That's a very... And as John said, quite rightly, coastal areas have flood legends.
Yeah. Yeah, and areas that are near like rivers that would experience floods and all this other kind of stuff, like the Nile River, like it experiences this flood and everything. Like so I mean, like, these are areas that are near floods, and if you can see on the screen right now, like my face, I don't hide my emotions whenever I hear ridiculous shit. Like, I'm looking up to God right now. Like, really, you're giving me this right now?
Yep.
Please, Lord, protect me from your followers.
For example, says, long after the death of Kunihana, the first man, the world became a wicked, terrible place to live. There was one good man left. His name was Nu'u. He made a great canoe with a house on it and filled it with animals. The waters came up over all the earth. All the people were killed. Only Nu'u and his family were saved. Exactly what the Bible says. Only it was Noah and his family. But the Chinese have an ancient legend called the Hiking Classic. You can look it up. They say Fu Hai is the father of the Chinese civilization. And the story says Fu Hai, his wife, 3 sons, and 3 daughters escaped a great flood. He and his family were the only people alive on earth after the flood, and they repopulated the world, which is, of course, what the Bible teaches. 1 man, his wife, 3 sons, 3 daughters, three wives, and they repopulated the world. The Toltec Indians in Mexico, when they were first discovered.
Yeah, I think this is really misrepresenting these myths kind of thing.
Oh, hugely. But he's got a bigger problem. His whole thing is the Bible is absolutely true. It was Noah and his family were the only humans to survive. And he himself is bringing up evidence of lots of other humans who survived.
Right.
Contradicting the Bible. Kind of an issue.
Yeah. And sort of so go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just gonna say my wife Casey, Caitlin Chloe, posted in the chat. Oh my God, you had no gray. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but like I've got a lot of gray in my beard now. And in this particular debate, I had no gray. Like I was grayless in this, and so it's like, wow, you've aged.
Well, it was a fair amount of time ago, my friend. It really was. And, you know, I mean, I luckily just shaved my head and then no one can tell. It's my secret way. I'm cheating, quite frankly. I got to admit it. I'm 100% cheating.
Yeah.
And left-handed Jedi with 5 readerships. Thank you so much, Jedi. I really appreciate it, mate. You are a champ.
I just have to say that your memberships, calling them readerships, are just amazing. Like I love that for your channel.
I copied it from Ember. I'm not even going to lie; that was not my idea. Ember started calling hers Emberships, and I just went. Well, I got to. That's.
Hey, you know that's it. Like the best I've got is Mafia, like the Godless Mafia or whatever. Like that's all that I've got. And so like we have this running joke about there being an atheist mafia that's running around. And that goes back to like way back in the day when there was this guy named Dean that was going around and he was saying that there was this like atheist mafia that was running things. And so like yeah.
I love this. Mark Agamotto 133 Smith for $2. That's what debating Ken Hovind will do to you. No,
it fucking will. It will. It'll turn you gray. I'm telling you. And like I debate people that are worse than Ken Hovind like every single day, and it's wrong.
Yeah, this is your brain on Hovind. This is your brain on Hovind. It just rots up through the roots of your hair. Yeah, terrible.
By white settlers coming into Mexico. The Toltec Indians legend says the first world lasted 1,716 years and was destroyed by a flood that covered the highest mountains. Only one family named Cox survived. It's interesting. 1716 is the date the Indians had put on it. Of course, their calendar may not have been the same as ours, but the Bible dates are 1656. So why would there be 330 now that have been discovered flood legends? I think it's because there was a flood. Go to creationism.org.
What date did he give for that?
1716? A bit of a miss. Little off.
He's talking about BC, I presume?
He didn't specify. He said the calendars might not link up. I guess not.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. In this particular section, like I didn't know what he was even trying to reference, other than he's just linking these other flood myths to like the biblical flood myth, and like none of them made sense. So like I made a single note. If you notice me like looking down and like I'm doing stuff, I'm writing notes, and like he's just mentioning superfluous shit.
Yeah. And the flood's supposed to be like 2,500 BC. So he's just debunking himself here because their flood myth doesn't match up. So I thought it was about 3,000. It's not about 2,500 is the official date that they give. But it would be interesting to see when did the flood actually happen, because that does not match up. You've got another super check from Jonathan Hanachak, member 68. 68 months. Oh wow, that's
sorry.
insane. All right,
That's on my channel.
yeah, I'm gonna read them out. Come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But 68 months? I haven't even been on YouTube 68 months. Jonathan Hanachak, well done, mate. I thought we were the mafiosos. What the fuck, GE? Come on, man. Don't you remember?
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. The mafiosos. That's what I call my memberships, are the mafiosos.
So fancy.
I know. We're organized and everything, you know? So like it works out.
They're gonna unionize.
Mafia's just thugs. Mafioso, that's got class, right? That's
it does. Class. Like we're classy. We're classy bitches. That's what we are.
Beautiful.
Or you can read them for yourself. So if you have 330 different cultures around the world, unrelated, unconnected, all telling a similar story, maybe it's because the story is true, or at least based on truth. Third bit of evidence for a flood. If you've ever seen a rock tumbler, you put in fragments of rock and you let them tumble for a few days or weeks, and then you take them out and they're all rounded off. I live in a gravel pit, Lenox, Alabama.
I live in a gravel pit. You sure do.
Congrats.
Sure do.
I live literally miles from this motherfucker. Like I'm North Alabama. Like I'm less than, I think, maybe like 100 or 200 miles from his dinosaur adventure land. That's like a death trap. And so like, I will not even I won't even grace like him with my presence down there. And I'm a mediocre like YouTube personality or whatever. Like I'm not even going down there. Like I just simply don't want to. And like the whole I'm in Lenox, Alabama thing, that's because he was chased out of fucking Florida. And that should be like that's sad for him, you know?
And all the locals hate him. You know, all the locals think he's absolutely terrible, and he keeps complaining that all the locals hate him. Mark Agamotto 1313 Smith is absolutely doing work. Became a YouTube member. Thank you. I'm not sure if that's you or me or both of us. I don't know, but thank you for whatever you did on whoever's channel. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so on my channel, he joined on my channel, and like so I have the very basic level that's like the minimum amount is called a shill. And that's because like a lot of people associate being a shill with like making a lot of money or whatever. And so like I made the lowest tier, the shill tier, as like a joke about being a shill.
It's the flat earth, isn't it? Like they're always like, oh, you're just a shill. And it's like, I wish if I was a NASA employee, I'd be so happy, but I'm not. So.
I prefer compensated anarchist. Thank you.
The compensated, I love that. Zumi Tomato, member for 63 months. That's insane. So to get this straight, there are a bunch of other flood myths taking place in completely different time happened. So Bible real. What the fuck? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Essentially, that's his argument. There's a whole bunch of flood stories, so therefore this flood story is correct.
Exactly.
I don't know where he's going with this rock tumbler. Does anyone have any idea what he's talking about?
It has to do with the gravel pit he lives on. I think he's going to argue all the gravel deep down is rounded off, therefore it must have been tumbled, and what better than a flood?
So erosion, exactly. Maybe. Okay, got you. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what he's arguing for. Yeah, sorry, I was just saying that's exactly what he's arguing for here. Like he's just adding superfluous arguments to his entire case.
Gravel all over the world is rounded. Why would the gravel be rounded? There are layer after layer after layer of rounded gravel right here. We're sitting on top of it. For 50 years, they dug gravel out of this pit to make county roads. I can go to any town, USA, and you can go to any place in the world and find gravel, and it's rounded off. Very frequently, there'll be layers of gravel, then layers of clay, layers of gravel, layers of clay. We have 5 layers of gravel exposed on the hillside right here near my house. It's part of the tour I'll show you, John, when you come down. Between the layers of gravel is a layer of clay. Well, during Noah's flood, the moon would pull the tide up, and then the water would have to rush in to fill that bump at the same speed the earth is turning. I've got a globe here somewhere. Can you find that? The globe. Oh, right behind me. Okay. Thank you. The world is turning at this latitude, 31.3366 degrees north latitude, turning the other way, at nearly 900 miles an hour. If the moon is holding a bump of water up, the high tide, and there's no continents to interrupt it during Noah's flood, the tide would become harmonic. And instead of 6 or 7 foot tidal change, you'd get a 200-foot tidal change every 6.5 hours, which the water rushing sideways to fill that bump is going to cause rocks to be rolled all over each other at 900 miles an hour. And
What?
That's my face right now. Like, what?
Perfect. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I have no idea. Is that you, Ralph, for $14.99 Australian? Thank you for the $1 dues. Lobe your work. Thank you so much, Ralph. I lobe my work too. Thank you. I know you mean love. Yeah, no, I know, buddy. That's a typo. But I just wanted to say lobe your work. It's just so good.
It's fantastic. I think I can explain Kent's argument.
Really?
Yep.
Well,
that's pretty much it. Accurate.
The question is, we've got the Missoula floodplains, right? So really good floodplains down sort of on the border of California. And we can see the effects of a flood because boulders have been rolled and all of these marks have been scraped along. But we don't see that all over the world. And the question is, why not? And I don't think, and he's basically arguing because he lives in a gravel pit, there was a flood. Like, he does realize that not everywhere is a gravel pit, right?
No.
Nope.
No.
It's all gravel. All gravel all the time. All floods. All Noahs.
Yeah, I mean, it's flood everywhere, Noah everywhere, Nu'u everywhere. Like, it's just it's his opinion everywhere. Like, that's just what it is, and you got to deal with that, Mark. You got to figure it out.
I just, it reminds me of that argument against climate change that it snowed here recently, and it's like that just because it snows where you are doesn't mean the world isn't getting hotter. Like there's places outside of your radius around yourself. You realize that?
Yeah. Are you talking about it was a congressman or a senator that came in that said like, yeah, I've got a snowball, therefore climate change isn't real. And it's like, the fuck are you talking about, man? Like, that's not proof against climate change.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, our government prevents props being used in Parliament. One of the weird rules about Australia, not allowed to bring props in, which is interesting.
I would prefer that, actually.
Well, some idiot, and he was a prime minister at one point, brought a piece of coal in and said, look, coal's not dangerous, presenting it to everybody. Like, and nobody's arguing that coal's like radioactive or something. It's like, light it on fire and see what happens. But also it was sealed in some sort of thing to stop it from being, the coal dust getting everywhere. And it's like,
yeah,
we've got our own idiots over here. It just
that's government. That's what they do.
Yeah.
That's nice to know, honestly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've got our own morons. It's okay. We just try and ignore them.
Cause them to be rounded off like a big rock tumbler. During high tide, when it sits still for a half hour or an hour, the small fine particles settle out and you get a layer of clay. Clay is just rock particles are much smaller than sand. And then you get another layer of gravel as the water rushes the other way. So we have layers of gravel, clay. It's found all over the world. Just Google gravel layers and you'll see thousands of pictures on Google. And in between are layers of clay. This is an indication the water is moving sideways, not depositing from the stars or the sky. They're going to tell the kids in school the geologic column has different layers of different ages. I say, guys, where's this new material coming from? Outer space? You're building up younger layers on top of older layers? No, this is all lateral movement.
So what, Kent? So far, you need to prove there was a flood, not be like, oh, there's layers. I mean, that's not true. That's not universal. That's not everywhere. There's plenty of places where there's clay layers on top of clay layers with no gravel in between. But so fucking what? Maybe, the great not god Nil descended to the earth and stacked up the freaking gravel individually. What does it show?
Magic unicorn, and the thing is that he thinks that hydrological erosion is the only erosion out there, and that's not true. There's also mechanical erosion that that's caused by wind and other particles hitting one. It's so ridiculous that he just thinks, well, erosion, it must be water. Why? What we've seen erosion happen through mechanical why? Article of faith.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a global flood happened, like because of what Ken Hovind says. So obviously, that's the only answer.
Well, it's a fallacy called what is it? Affirming the consequent. It's like saying if there was a global flood, we would see erosion and lateral movement of deposition. There's lateral movement of deposition, therefore a global flood. But the problem is that you're ignoring every other possibility of lateral movement of deposition that could be out there in order to confirm the thing that you think already. It's basically, it's a fallacy, and it's also just confirmation bias, essentially. When you boil it down, that's what it is.
Yep, exactly.
Mark Agamotto 1313 Smith strikes again. I'm going to get really good at this name by the end of it, Mark. I tell you what, mate. For $2, -20 is warmer than -30. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Of the water had to form these layers very quickly. Oh, we're going to run out of time here.
2 minutes.
If you look at the country of Turkey, on the far eastern side over there is a little town called Noah Ungumshi, which means Noah's big boat. They've got signs, you drive right to it. The Turkish government says they have found Noah's Ark. The Bible says the Ark rested in the mountains, plural of Ararat, mountain.
Yeah, but the Turkish government also likes tourism.
Uh-huh. The Turkish government has been working with the Darupanar team.
Darupanar. Yeah, this
The
is the
Turkish
Darupanar
government
side,
isn't,
isn't it?
so why don't you believe it?
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow. That's some gold right there.
And so I talk in my seminar about the Noah's Ark being found there, right here. Life magazine published article 1960.
Oh, it is
High altitude spy plane took pictures.
Oh, it is.
And there in the middle of a lava flow is a boat-shaped object. 1978, there was a volcanic earthquake, and either it popped up or the ground fell down. The result's the same. It's now sticking up out of the ground.
That's the Darupanar side, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yes,
sure is.
So the only problem with that is that the University of California sent a team out there to actually look at the site, and they found that all of that, what was supposed to be fossilized wood, was in fact limonite. It was sort of a natural form of iron. So none of that is actually wood or fossilized wood. All of it is just natural rock. It's just a rock formation.
It's pareidolia. It's not even actually a boat shape. It's like a fucking football. It's the football of God. Proof of yada yada. Oh my goodness. It's so bad on so many levels.
I mean, does he think Chinooks actually have like a face on their ass end? Like, just because something looks like a thing doesn't mean that it is that thing, and he doesn't understand that.
None of the creationists do. We've had sort of a catchphrase for years, because the first debate I ever did on MDD, there was a creationist on there, and he brought up an extinct species of what was it, sugar gum, I think.
Maple leaf. What was maple leaf? Is what he claimed.
Yes, he shows the fossil and he goes, I mean, it looks like a maple leaf to me. And okay, it looks like a maple leaf. Therefore.
And it literally had the classification there, and it turned out to be a sweet gum leaf, which is a completely different family of plant. It's like, just because it looks like a thing doesn't mean it's that thing. Just in the same way that we go, hey, that mirage looks like water, that doesn't mean that it's water. And we've got some stuff coming through. Elizabeth Richardson for $20. I saw you live and got really confused thinking it was Friday.
I mean, it could be Friday.
We've
already seen examples of time travel already in this stream.
Look, everybody knows that it's Sunday.
Yeah, so normally my normal schedule is Friday nights I do a live stream, and like it's very produced and everything like that, and so like I haven't been doing that lately, and so I get that a lot of people are confused, but I'm trying to like really boost like this hyper analytical sort of analysis of this debate, because this is one of my most contentious debates that were out there.
And he's actually helping us a great deal, and really appreciate it. And we're just having some fun as well. Like, we really just want to point at Kent and laugh, really. I mean, that's what I'm here for. I don't know why you guys here, but that's what I like doing.
I just come over every Saturday evening because that's what it actually is, and hang out and dunk on Mark being all in the future and whatnot.
Yeah. Me being upside down in Australia, it's hilarious. It makes no sense. Mark Agamotto 1313 Smith, I love that name now. For $2 was the wood soaked in teriyaki sauce.
I mean, I'd eat it.
Well,
it does sound tasty. Yeah, everything is better in teriyaki. Yeah,
we don't know what gopher wood is. It might be teriyaki sauce. Soaked wood, for all we know. That you could have discovered what gopher wood is. Congratulations, Mark. You've
I wonder if that makes it float better, or if it's more leak resistant. I mean, we do know from the Bible that the ark had to be coated in enough pitch,
yeah,
to power the Roman or the Greek fire oil industry for generations.
And this boat-shaped object is 515 feet long. The exact dimensions that Noah's Ark was supposed to be, only it's wider than it should be because it would splay out as it collapsed and rotted away.
Exact dimensions.
Yeah.
Exact. What are the exact dimensions, Kent? Because going through ye old scriptures, it's kind of vague. I mean, we know a cubit could be roughly.
We don't want to focus on specifics here. Like, it's just in the general shape of it, okay? Like, we don't need to focus on specific instructions, okay? We just don't need to do that.
Yeah. Who cares about dimensions?
Yeah.
Or mud flows around in a stationary object like a rock or something. It does make a teardrop shape, just like this. However, this one's facing the wrong way. The point of the teardrop would be downstream. Many people have studied this object and say, that's Noah's Ark. The government of Turkey built a visitor center. You can go see it. Let's see. Right, coming up here.
Wait.
Mountain.
He's talking about how the ark would naturally be a teardrop shape and the point of the teardrop is pointing downstream, whatever the fuck that means. And then he scrolls through more slides. Now, the creationists can commonly present Noah's Ark as a big fucking rectangle. It's an overgrown box.
Yes.
What does he mean a teardrop shape? And one of his own slides shows it as a rectangle. There it is.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Kent? What are you talking about?
I have no idea. It's kind of just and don't forget the Dhurrumpinda site was found by Ron Wyatt, who, if you're familiar with the work of Ron Wyatt, he is such an obvious fraud and con. He's found both arks, apparently, like the Ark of the Covenant and Noah's Ark. He's found the tomb of Jesus. Yep. He's found, just every single relic
he's a fucking prodigy, Mark. He's found everything to affirm everything in the Bible, despite the history that we have. Well, I don't even know why you're questioning his brilliance in finding everything that exactly confirms everything that he believes.
He was guided by the Holy Spirit. The finger of God pointed him in the right direction.
The finger of God, exactly.
And I just want to point out that the scientists went and sampled the fossilized wood of this site, and it wasn't fossilized wood. I just want to point that out, that when we actually get instrumentation and science to the place, turns out to be not an ark and just a natural formation, which is just hilarious.
Yeah, and in fact, it hurts the head so very much. According to the creationists, Mount Ararat is post-flood. It happened after the flood, so it wasn't even there for Noah's Ark to land on. And we have Christian historical records from the first few centuries that say that Mount Judy is where they claimed Noah's Ark landed, and the people built a freaking monastery on the site, which is why there's no ark there, because they built the monastery instead. The monastery burned down in, I think, the 7th or 8th century. I'm fuzzy on which precisely, but Christian history says it's over here, and here's Kent and Ron Wyatt going, "Oh no, it's this rock actually." Freaking amazing.
Well, I was actually in a flood debate where the Durrumpinda site wasn't the one that they were saying. They said there was another site over somewhere else up in the
The
mountains.
Nami site that was you and
Yeah, the
I
Nami,
versus
that's right.
versus
Yeah.
the person who shall not be named and the guy who wrote the book that he keeps trying to sell. I forget his name off the top of my head. But yeah, that's another bogus site up on a glacier. It's a whole thing, but it's literally just that one guy with his book and a certain disrepute or honorable individual from Brazil.
So the person that shall not be named for me is S.J. Thomason. Who is the person that shall not be named for you?
SJ.
Oh yeah, SJ's fun. It's his name starts with an O. He's banned on a whole bunch of channels that we both frequent.
Oh, I
and
know
he's
who you're talking about. Yes,
Shroud of Turin
exactly.
fan. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I know who you're talking about. Yes, exactly. Yes, he is also he who shall not be named.
I probably have got a few different people that have banned off my channel. I don't know. I don't really have a problem with that.
Yeah,
many people.
it definitely takes a lot for me to ban somebody like off of my entire presence, but like you know, the people that we're talking about are definitely like ban worthy, like off of the conversational stage, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe,
I'd heard the stories about him. I still gave him not even just one fair chance. I gave him 3 chances, and he crossed the line several. So yeah, he's done. Yeah,
you're gone. Yeah. Probably maybe Bubblegum Dumb is probably the one that just like the you have not heard these type of arguments that like dogs were created separately kind of thing, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, doesn't believe they're related to wolves, believes in gnomes, just wild.
Coming up here. Boat-shaped object on Doomsday Mountain. There we go. The government of Turkey confirms, yep, that's Noah's Ark, and there's their visitor center, and you can go see it. So I think I have to say there is enormous physical.
I just pause here.
I physically facepalm.
Oh yeah.
Like ooh,
I have this graphic.
Because a visitor center, like, you know, forget testing and empirical data. It's whether there's a visitor center. That's the real test to see if something's real. You know, if you put a visitor center in front of it, it has to be, right?
How can it be wrong?
How can it be wrong? It's got a visitor center.
Evidence right now saying Noah's Ark could be there. Let me get 165 here. Okay. So 70% of the Earth today is covered by sedimentary rock. This can only happen in something like a flood.
Look at number 2. Jesus believed it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, prove it.
A guy
prove Jesus. I don't know.
Believed it. Wow. I'm sold. I'm sold.
I mean,
70%.
I don't even know about the list that he's talking about because like my hand is still in my head and it doesn't matter what kind of list he has.
Yeah, I mean, you thought you were coming to a debate. More fool you. This is clearly just like all of these points. None of them show there was global flood. None of them. The Bible clearly teaches it. Who cares? Jesus believed it. Who cares? There are 350 flood legends. Yeah, places had floods. Like not all at the same time. 70% of the Earth is covered by, but mechanical erosion can do that as well. Like. We know when hydrological erosion happens, and it's not all over the Earth. So that doesn't prove anything.
Yeah, I don't think that's correct either. Like, I mean, most of the Earth is covered with water. Now, there are sedimentary layers under the oceans in some places, but I don't know that 70% is correct.
Oh, I assumed he was sort of talking about the land. Yeah. Is that what he's talking about?
Who's to say? He's just making shit up at this point.
So the point that he's making is that the 70% of the Earth that is like land is covered by 70% of sedimentary rock. And I just I don't know what this is supposed to prove. Like I really don't.
Well, it's apparently I'm reading here it's either sedimentary rock or just sediment, you know, just the grains of rock that has been eroded away. So he's sort of, by sedimentary rock, it's kind of misleading because he's sort of saying, you know, sedimentary rock, where in fact it is just sediment as well. So normal erosion is what we expect from that. I don't know what you would expect. Weird. But Mark Agamotto strikes again. 1313 Smith for $5. Gandalf believed in the One Ring, so it must be true. Oh, I love the Lord of the Ring comparisons, you know. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, why disregard you know, the Lord of the Rings? Like I don't understand.
Yep.
Gravel is rounded worldwide. The ark's been found. They're underwater canyons. There are polystrata fossils all over the place. There's enough water on the Earth right now to cover the Earth 8,000 feet deep. There's plenty of water for a flood to happen if you just simply adjust the crust of the Earth, push the mountains down, lift the ocean basins up. So
yeah, but that's salt water. Like, what?
I love the caveat that he has for this, because the caveat is, if you adjust for everything that accounts for my view, then yes, everything accounts for my view. Like, what in the fuck?
Well, and polystrate fossils aren't even a thing. They're not even a thing in geology. Nobody thinks that there's polystrate fossils. They're not a thing at all. They don't exist.
Purely creationist terminology, and that's intentional. They made up the term so that if you try to Google it, you'll get nothing but answers in Genesis and Creation Research Museum and Carl Baugh and all that crazy crap. No science, because they made it up. Now, you can actually find things that cross multiple layers, but polystrata is not an actual scientific term.
No.
Jesus said there was a flood. The Bible says there's a flood. John says there's no flood. I want to hear this. Go ahead, John.
All right. What's up, heathens that are in the chat? So first I want to say thank you, James, for putting this together. Thank you, Kent, for the opportunity to debate you. I've been watching, you know, your sermons and everything like that online for years now. And, you know, how wrong you've been has actually taught me a lot about science. So I appreciate that. Now, this debate is ultimately about basic geology versus the Bible. Or you could think of it as uniformitarianism versus catastrophism. Now,
I love your framing here. It's absolutely good because, you know, the Bible aside, the religion aside, it really is those two sort of different ideas. And catastrophism was put to bed ages ago. Like, I mean, ages ago. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit with what we know about it. You really have to sort of go into last Tuesdayism kind of thing. Say, hey, but God made it so it looks like, you know, uniformitarianism is true. And it's like, well,
yeah,
how does that work? You know, I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's catastrophism versus uniformitarianism, and that's exactly what the debate is. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Like it doesn't make sense to challenge like how everything has worked. Like that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and so for people unfamiliar with the terms, uniformitarianism sort of says it's currently what geologists use. They kind of say, hey, the natural processes that we see at work on the Earth and on rocks and on all of these things were the same natural processes back in the day. We're seeing the same natural processes that have continued. And as we extrapolate them along a longer and longer timeline, we can see the effects that they have. And they've always been the same physics, same effects, same processes working. Catastrophism basically says flood did everything. Flood did all of the erosion, all of the stuff, you know, and it's not the same as it used to be. The flood was this special event that did all of the changes in the geologic features that we see across the Earth, and then it stopped. And I don't know how you would make any kind of scientific even argument for that, because you know that's not what we see.
Prior to modern geology and the concept of uniformitarianism, we had catastrophism. And basically what catastrophism says is that the Earth was formed in the way that it is now through successive like catastrophes that happened, with the most recent one being the flood. And catastrophism has been disproven since the early 19th century. It's a largely dead debate, but it's only coming around because of the creationist crowd. So just to give you a little bit of history on this, James Hutton was the first to propose the idea of uniformitarianism. He didn't call it that, but it was that idea. He did this in the 1790s. He proposed that the Earth was formed over long periods of time by uniform processes of nature. In 1830, Charles Lyell picked up where Hutton left off and built off of Hutton's ideas. He used observational evidence to establish what would eventually become the primary tenet of geology. That tenet is the idea that uniform processes have shaped our world. Through wind and water erosion, valleys are carved out, pebbles are rounded off. These slow changes over long periods of time is the most probable explanation for how our Earth came to be what it is now. So I feel like the evidence for
I was about to ask whether Kent was frozen. Yeah, he kind of dropped out here, I believe. I saw as I was flicking through. But yeah, just complete excellent explanation of the processes and uniformitarianism, which is what every single geologist except for the creation science, nutbags sort of believe today. There's almost nobody that believes that the Earth was formed over a series of catastrophic events. Nobody. But very good explanation, John.
Yeah, and I mean, I tried to provide like the best scientific explanation for like everything that we see and like for the past, and apparently that wasn't good enough for people.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
isn't that what you still do though? Like, I mean, your whole thing is you break down apologist arguments to give people the best evidence to stand up and use their voice. I'm mangling your intro, but you know what I'm going for here.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like that's what I'm trying to do. And like Kent obviously is like just trying to push whatever narrative that he has, and that's just all that he's trying to do. Or uniformitarianism is well established. So I have a lot of problems with the flood model. For one thing, it would require 2.25 quintillion meters cubed of water, more than what we have here on Earth.
Our router reset, Steve said.
Look, it wouldn't be a Hovind debate without technical issues. I mean, we all get technical issues. I get that. But like, Ken is the one person consistently every single time he does something, something goes wrong. It's like just by sheer chance, he should have had an uninterrupted stream by now, and it's never happened. I'll stand by that. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but
no, you're not. But I mean, I'm just basically establishing here what should be accepted by everybody. Like this is just basic science that I'm like mentioning here. And so it blows my mind that somebody can be so oblivious to actual scientific like analysis that he's proposing the things that he is. So like everything that I'm saying is like verifiable, like just by basic science that everybody is taught in high school. Oh, hold on, James. I think nobody can hear you.
I hear James just fine.
Sorry, folks. I had myself muted on Streamlabs. Basically, we are good to go. We're thrilled to have Team Hovind back. I was afraid of the power outage, but we're good. So we're going to start it back up.
Well, he hasn't switched out. He uses Zoom these days, which I mean, it does fine. It's just it's probably not the best platform in my opinion, but it does fine. James a bit of a funny one. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, I feel the same.
Yeah, it does the job, but it's not. I don't think it's great.
Godless Engineer has 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Thanks everybody for your patience out there. Glad you're sticking with us. And John, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I'll start at my most recent section. So I have a lot of problems with the flood model because I feel like uniformitarianism and basic geology have been well supported throughout time. So it's really up to me to, explain why the flood model doesn't make sense. So for one thing, it would require 2.25 quintillion meters cubed of water more than what we have here on Earth. Now, I've been watching a lot of you, Kent, and it seems like you maybe you still follow this whole hydroplate
Can I add?
theory.
Of course.
Sorry, I just want to add like why I come to this conclusion, because this is basic like geometry, I guess, because like you have a sphere, right, that represents the Earth at sea level, and then you have a sphere that represents the Earth, or at least the volume of the Earth at the highest point, which would be like Mount Everest or whatnot. And so then all you have to do is take the volume of one sphere, subtract it from the volume of another sphere, and you end up with the amount of water that you need in order to cover the entire Earth as we understand it. And so like that ends up with this quintillion number that I'm mentioning here, and that it's just not feasible given the amount of water that we have on the fucking Earth. And so like that is my first point that I attack, and that's the first point that anybody should consider, is like, how much water do we actually have here on this Earth, and then compare that to how much water we would need for a global flood, and like that in itself should prove to everybody that like this entire story is bullshit.
Yeah.
But John, have you considered the blood of Jesus?
But the fountains of the deep.
That's right.
What the fuck
Yeah.
does that mean?
Shit, the blood of Jesus. I forgot how dense that is. I mean,
yeah.
obviously.
Pretty dense, yeah. It's all pretty dense when you get down to it, yeah.
I mean, he wasn't using it in the flood.
No. It's just it's yeah.
He
And
washed
sort
the
of,
world.
and you hear these kind of weird statements, and sort of I've said before that when you're talking to somebody like Kent about the flood, you sort of, he'll plug one hole and that'll open up two other holes. So when you're talking to them, you say, well, you know, it would have to go above Mount Everest, and he's like, well, Mount Everest hadn't formed at that point, so everything was really flat, kind of thing. So it wasn't. And then it comes to, how did it form the mountains then? Like,
no, so Kent, and I don't know if he says this in this particular debate, but Kent says that the Earth was like an eggshell. Like, he thinks that the Earth was perfectly spherical, until the flood happened.
Right. So how does a hydrological flood create mountains? Who knows? It's who knows? I mean, we have a model of how the mountains are created. We've got tectonic plates. Yeah.
Mark, if we have magic, what the fuck are you even talking about here? Like, if we got magic going on, then we don't need rational explanations like you're trying to propose.
Yeah, but John, they can't appeal to magic, because if you start to appeal to magic and say, hey, it was a miracle that the mountains were raised, why have a flood at all? Why not just magic all the population out of existence, skip the flood?
Exactly. That's my point. That's my point. That's my point in this entire thing, is that, like, fucking why? Yes, SpongeBob. Ooh, why?
It doesn't actually hold any water, pun intended. For one thing, where did the water go exactly once it like retreated? Like, where did all of that water go? That's a lot of extra water on this planet.
And this is something that annoys me about Kent, and it's why I make a habit of always using a presentation. It's because he will throw this crap up to divert the attention of the people watching. It's a really dishonest tactic to kind of use, because he's trying to divert their attention from what John's saying here and have them read all of his slides, kind of thing. So he loves putting up these slides, and he will try and tailor them to oppose the interlocutor's points while he does it. So in order to prevent that, I really recommend having a PowerPoint presentation, even if it's just a rough presentation, because he really does try to divert people's attention away from what you're saying. And it's really dishonest, but, you know, I mean, it's Kent Hovind. Dishonest.
Oh, yeah. And I have to say, after this particular debate, like, I definitely prepare, like, slides and everything like that to, like, sort of illustrate my points. So, like, I definitely after this point in my life, like, I definitely tailor my debates to the crowd that I'm talking to. And so like part of that is like providing some kind of like presentation or slideshow that sort of presents my points. So like I did take that to heart.
Oh, that's a good idea. Fern's got a fantastic idea. Next time, bring your own slides and display things like Kent Hovind's mugshots, quotes from the cases brought about him for abuses. That's a brilliant idea.
Oh my God.
I like that.
I wish at this time I had the audio of him body slamming his wife, because it's like, oh my
the reenactment as well, with the guy, the massive hairy guy wearing a blonde wig. That is just like, how can someone have so little self-awareness and actually think that's a good it's tragic.
Keep in mind, this is a man who thinks that a child drowning at his park is good publicity for his park. Like, he thinks it's a good thing. Like, he bragged about how the father was like, we're gonna definitely come again. Like, no, this is not a bragging moment here. You are deficient in like the safety procedures of your base, like your park that you're forcing people to work at. Like, this is bad, Kent. Like, this is not a good thing.
Yeah, and sort of the whole idea of putting stuff up like this is just poisoning the well. That's the fallacy that he's doing, is just poisoning the well. Like, you're a scoffer, you're after your own lusts kind of thing, and he's just trying to divert attention, and it's just a really dishonest tactic.
Later on in the debate, he shits on me, like he verbally like abuses me for like having a beer on camera. Like, I have a bottle of beer and I take a swig of it and everything like that. And he's like, oh, I don't partake in the shit that you do. And he shits on me for like having a beer during the debate. And it's like so ridiculous for him to I guess criticize me for that, because it's like he regularly employs pedophiles. He regularly excuses like the deaths of children on his property. Like, it's just so ridiculous of him.
It's pretty special. But have you considered, according to ye old holy scripture books of make-believe stories, the fool says in his heart there is no God, though. I mean, it's a compelling argument.
Obviously, I'm the fucking fool in this situation.
Apparently so. And let's face it, like, we're talking about Noah. Wasn't Noah a raging alcoholic?
Yes, famously. That's how the whole curse of Ham bullshit got justified.
Yeah.
Lot too, although it wasn't. Ooh.
I mean, obviously he was a wino. Like, he made wine, he got drunk off wine, and so therefore, fuck Noah.
Yeah, Psalm 104. It's a drunk to the point of merriness. Like, it's just, what's your problem? So yeah, you're great guy, Noah. Mm-hmm.
Why are you fucking happy while you're drunk? You should be like totally depressed while you're drunk. I mean, fuck.
How dare you?
Did it like retreat back underneath the tectonic plates or something like that? Where did it go? That's one question I would like answered. The inability of the flood model to answer this basic question, which I know I haven't given Kent the chance to answer yet, but hopefully he'll try to come up with an answer. But I feel like the flood model doesn't have the ability to answer questions like this, and it's because of that these things just don't make sense. Like, the things that are in the flood model do not make actual sense in observed reality. For one thing, Kent says that this water underneath the tectonic plates were under great pressure, and when the Earth's crust cracked, when God made them crack magically, apparently that pressure was so great that it caused the water to explode out of these fault lines. And I just want to know where this pressure was coming from. Like, I get that you say that the crust was sort of floating on top of this, but even so, you would need a pressure from like inside
the Earth, like from the inner core, pushing out on it in order to get the directional vector that would be spurting out of the crust. So was
good question.
So very
and
excitable.
He adds more to it that's even more hilarious these days, which was that the craters on the moon were formed by boulders thrown up by that pressure spurting water out. It shot boulders like frigging bukkake onto the moon. That's called the lunar bukkake theory.
It's fantastic. I actually can't help with this particular conundrum a little bit though. So this happens a lot with anything under the surface, whether it's oil or natural gas or an aquifer, whatever. If the hydrostatic pressure is higher than the lithostatic pressure, it doesn't necessarily break through because it needs to have more than just higher pressure. There has to be a sufficient pressure to overcome the stability of the lithosphere above it. You need something, whether it's an earthquake or a meteor strike, something has to break the stability of the crust to let the thing out. The higher pressure will help it out.
Have you considered the blood of Jesus?
It's possible. We can't rule it out because, as you know, we weren't there.
Yeah, I mean, like my basic question is, where did all this pressure come from? Because like everybody knows that like in order for water to like spurt out of the crust, there needs to be some kind of pressure from within in order for the water to spurt out. And like, I don't know where this comes from. Like, I don't know what caused this pressure. And I'm just looking for Kent to explain to me like why there was this pressure. And that's all that I'm asking for here. I'm asking for an explanation as to what caused the pressure that caused the water under the crust to spurt out, because that is what's needed. And like, he can't answer that. He's just like, oh, God's fucking magic, and that's why it happened. And it's like, that's not a good enough reason there, Ken.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he avoids the question. I know it's a bold statement, I know, but I'm going to go out on a limb.
No, you're not going out on a limb, because he can't answer it. He can't tell me without magic. He can't say without magic where this pressure came from, and he just simply can't answer it. And that's just a simple fact of this debate.
I want to see that. I really want to see that.
Expanding what was causing that pressure from the center of the Earth to cause the fountains of the deep to erupt. And if so, what happened? Did just the Earth get bigger? Like the mass of the Earth would get bigger because obviously rock and
Kent slides are down. He's unhappy. He's not happy. Whenever his slides go down, he's very grumpy.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, whenever you bring up reasonable opposition to Kent's fucking shit, he has a problem with it.
Yeah.
Everything that the inner core and outer core is made out of is much denser than water. So that would mean that the Earth would have been lighter in the past or something. I'm not exactly sure how that works out, but it raises a lot of questions. But that's kind of the point of this whole line here, is that these alternative explanations that you have and you've always espoused only cause us to ask more questions that you can't actually answer.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is what I was talking about before. When they plug one hole, two more open up. That, their explanations cause more questions than they actually answer. 100%.
Yes,
that is,
exactly.
Absolutely. No, that was really good. Yep, absolutely.
Answer.
And see, presenting this in the start, you can get to say, hey, this is how, like when he answers something, you can say, look, this opens up these other questions kind of thing. As I said in the start, I love the framing you've done here, because we all know going into a thing in Kent, he'll say something to answer something, and you'll go, how does that work with this, and this down the track? Like, what the hell? He'll say something like, oh, the animals went to the ark, not the opposite way around. And you're like, wait, the sloth, how did that get there? What are we talking about here?
I mean, that's my entire point here, is to like get Kent to explain all of these things that can't be explained. And like, my entire point in my opening here is like, why does any of this happen? Why does any of this? And like, if the only thing that he can do is specially plead for his God, then like his entire argument is just false. Like it can't survive scrutiny.
No, of course not.
And it's because they break the natural order of things in observable reality, and they do so before supernatural reasons. Supernatural explanations for things have never actually explained anything. All supernatural explanations have been replaced by actual natural explanations that are observable and repeatable.
Yeah, and I like what Matt Delahunty says. He says you can't solve a mystery by appealing to a bigger mystery. You know, you can't say, well, how did they know I would be here? Instead of finding a reasonable explanation, like, oh, some sort of psychic magic. How does that work, though? Like, that doesn't answer anything.
Yeah, and like all of my arguments that I ever make against like either creationism or God has always garnered like positive reactions from people like Matt Dillahunty or other people. So like, it doesn't make sense to me that anybody would consider what I'm saying here to be like insufficient. And I think that Kent Hovind can't explain the things I'm asking him to explain. So like it's just weird to me.
Yeah, it's very strange. Very strange.
Claim that mountains weren't as big as, say, Mount Everest, because I know that you pointed out in your intro there how there's enough water on the earth to conceivably, raise the water level 8,000 feet. And I haven't actually checked that number, but assuming that you're correct, you would actually need a whole lot more water in order to flood the entire earth. But then that pushes you into the position of having to move the goalpost, because when I point that out, you'll just say, oh, all of the mountains were, let's say, less than 8,000 feet tall. Well, then you're just special pleading your way through this argument, and it's very dishonest, because there's no way for you to know how tall they were, only that God supposedly flooded the entire earth, and the only thing that we know is that these very tall mountains existed at one point in time.
Well, I'm not sure he's special pleading, but he's definitely making some sort of post hoc rationalization. He's just sort of saying, hey, this is what solves that. You know, here's this instance that could solve that kind of thing with no evidence for it. But I get what you're saying, though. And I think that in that, like what you said earlier in this session was that, hey, it ends up with special pleading. And I absolutely think that may not have been special pleading, but it will end up there at some point, you know, like, but God can do anything is basically, you know, the end result of that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the answer to anything that I have is going to be special pleading. Like anything that he can say is special pleading, because he's specially pleading for God. And I don't see how he can get past that.
Special pleading. My special pleading is okay because of X reasons.
Exactly. My special pleading is better than your special pleading.
Look, I was once in a debate where somebody said that special pleading is fine because it doesn't apply to God. I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking.
Would
so
that be
special
special pleading?
I think so. Yeah, that was that Ronnie guy that was like, you know, upset that I was autistic for some reason. You know, like on the autism spectrum. Yeah, no, that was an interesting debate.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm definitely neurodivergent in some kind of way, but like the things that Kent is saying here and people like Kent are saying just simply doesn't make sense. Like if you just take from a purely logical perspective, like it just doesn't make sense. And that's the thing that really gets me, is that like I can't logically connect between what Kent is saying and what reality is. And like that's the problem that I have.
Well, it's not just atheists. A lot of Christians can't connect logically with what Kent's saying with reality. That's the problem. There's a whole bunch of people who are Christians and yet they believe in evolution because of the overwhelming evidence for it. And, you know, they know there's no global flood. It's just a story because the evidence is overwhelming. You have to be a fundamentalist to think that the Bible is inalienable truth. That it is not possible to be wrong in order to believe this crap. You have to be, because, you know, when you look at, the actual science and what we understand about the world. It just does not mesh with it. So,
no, I totally agree.
I think that Amy Newman said it best, like, we're purveyors of cognitive dissonance, we're purveyors of doubt, that really it's just, start doubting this words just because it's words in a book. Start listening to what we actually have spent decades and decades figuring out about the world instead of just believing a book because it says a thing.
Well, Mark, there are these letters in order on these pages.
Yeah,
it was clearly created by an intelligence.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And I mean, we can test like how old Mount Everest is and when it formed and all of that. And it's more than 6,000 years. It takes more than 6,000 years in order for a mountain like Mount Everest to actually form. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't done by catastrophe, because guess what? Catastrophe never forms mountains in the way that you say. It never does any of those things that you talk about, because there's no observable evidence for it. There's no evidence in geology for it. So you're basically just putting out assertions and not actually backing them up with science or evidence.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that's what he's doing. He's putting out assertions. Absolutely 100%. Nailed it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it just amazes me. Like, he's just saying shit. Like, he says shit, and then, like, people believe him because he says shit. Because he's like, I taught high school science for 15 years.
15 years, yeah.
Okay. Great, good for you, but what does the actual evidence say? And like, he can't point to it other than his fucking PowerPoints that he's showing right now in order to refute me. And like, none of his PowerPoints actually refute me, but like, to his sycophants, they do.
Yeah. So have you considered, John, that Jesus believed it?
I mean, fuck me. Jesus believed it, therefore it's true. Like, oh my God, that totally reforms my entire worldview. I should just totally accept his position.
Absolutely. Yeah. Could we just take a second to relish the fact that Kent's current slide is from Carl Baugh, the guy from Texas with the dinosaur tracks and whatnot, but Dr. Carl Baugh. Now, Carl Baugh's doctorate is even more illegitimate than Kent's, if you can believe it.
Wow.
The dude gave it to himself. He awarded himself a doctorate.
I didn't even, like, in the moment, like, obviously, I couldn't know what he was going to bring up, like what experts he was going to bring up or anything like that. But like, in the moment, I was like, this seems a bit sus. I'm going to have to research this a little bit. But also the fact that he's saying the things that he's saying, like, that's just totally wrong. Like, as far as like we understand about modern science or anything like that, like, all of the things that he's saying is just totally wrong. And so, like, I don't even have to know who Dr. Carl Baugh is to know that this is like old information or that this is old science. Like, none of this is relatively important to the conversation.
And if you want to know how bad this guy is, creationist organizations such as Answers in Genesis have criticized Baugh's claims, saying that he muddied the water for many Christians. People are being misled. Creation Ministries International wrote, some Christians will try to use Baugh's evidences in witnessing and get shot down by someone who is scientifically literate. So he is that bad. He is that bad.
Yeah, and that's because his information is so wrong that even creationist sources are like, don't use this guy. Like, don't use his conclusions. Like, that right there is just like, I feel like that should turn anybody away from using Dr. Carl Baugh from like any fucking thing that they want to prove. And like, obviously Kent Hovind here is like, oh yeah, that affirms my position, so obviously I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
Now
Obviously.
you sort of alluded to some evidence like finding Noah's actual ark in Turkey. I'm wondering if you know what pareidolia is, because that's exactly what you showed me is pareidolia. I mean, it looks like a boat, and I guess it could be a boat, so therefore it is Noah's ark. That's not how anything works. That particular mountain range, that formation is not a boat. It's just a regular natural formation. It looks like a boat to us because that's what a boat looks like. But just because it looks like it doesn't mean that it's actually it. Just like how faces seem to appear on the ass end of helicopters and shit. Those aren't actually faces. They're not actually sentient beings. They're not Autobots or Decepticons. Those aren't things.
Now, John,
so to go
you
through your
cannot be sure. You cannot know that they're not Decepticons.
Well, it's
No,
got it in their
man,
name,
fucking
right?
exactly. Unless the Autobots are real and like everything that Matchbox tells us is real, then it's like that's not the case here. And like Ken Hovind's like, no, it's definitely the case. And like
Yep.
I don't understand why he thinks this way. And I don't understand why he thinks that other people should think this way.
Well, because we look around and we go, okay, what does reality tell us? Like, what do, you know, we investigate the natural world. What does that tell us about the world around us? He starts with the Bible being true and then adjusts his reality to match the Bible. And that's the problem, because when you start to get conflicts between those, it is the fundamentalists that will say, well, reality is wrong and the Bible is true. And we had a quote from, I think it was one of the Creation Ministries International that sort of said, if between the Bible and evidence, we will go with the Bible.
Yeah, Ken Ham said something very similar.
Yep.
More than once, in fact. Like, he got his response in the famous debate with Bill Nye. You know, Bill, what would convince you you're wrong? Evidence. Same question to you, Ken. Nothing. Because even if reality it says one thing, the Bible is still true.
Yep.
Wowzers.
In the HBO documentary called Questioning Darwin, they have a pastor who's like, if the Bible says that 2 + 2 = 5, then I'm going to try to work into my worldview that 2 + 2 = 5. And so, like, that's what they say. Like, they think that if the Bible says the thing, then that is the thing. And like, that just doesn't fucking make sense. And like, that's what confuses me about creationists like Ken Hovind or other people. Like, why is it that nature can tell you one thing and you're like, nah, fucking magic. And like, that's the thing that you go with. Like, I don't understand it.
Indoctrination, you know, that's what they've been taught, and that's what they'll teach
exactly.
to. And
It's indoctrination. It's people telling them that they should believe this thing because that's how you would get accepted in like in society. Like, that's how you are accepted in the group of people that you're accepted within. Like, that's what you do. And like, that's just not convincing to me. It's like, I don't understand why people are convinced by this. And like, I was convinced by it for the longest time. Like, yeah, if I want to be like fat people, then I believe that a magician like created everything. And like, as soon as I was challenged on that and I was like, prove it, I couldn't hold to it anymore. Like, I fucking don't understand it. And like, for Ken Hovind here, like, I just simply don't understand his position. Like, it's a fundamental thing that I just simply don't understand. And like, I don't understand why Ken Hovind is understanding this. And I don't understand why, like, I'm just in a constant state of misunderstanding, like why people are convinced by these things. And I don't know if it's like an ADHD thing or like, or if it's something else, but like, I just don't understand.
Yeah, I don't like. I was never raised in a religious household, so I don't understand it either. But I think that it's very like it is breaking down. Like, I mean, if you consider the amount of people that have moved away from religion, say in the last 50 years, it's overwhelming. The Pew Research Center has a study that shows by at the latest 2070, if everything religion does is right and they don't have any more scandals or any more, things that, show them to be wrong, that they will lose majority of people in the US by 2070. So people are moving away from it. And outside of the US, you see that throughout the rest of the world. In Australia, no religion, people with no religion just became 40-something%. We're basically on par with Christians now. There's as many Christians in the country as there are atheists. So we're kind of gaining so much ground. And I think that, people like this are just going to become, the Mennonites or the Amish of the civilization. Okay, you go over there, believe what you believe. That's cool. Whatever.
Yeah, totally. And I think that a lot more people are going to be more reasonable about the conclusions that they come to. And I feel like they're going to be more accepting of positions that aren't necessarily the popular positions. And so like that's what I think that we're moving to. I think that we're moving to a more rational position of like, yeah, totally. A magician commands the sexual slavery of women. That's fucking bullshit. Like, I feel like that's going to be the norm like in just a few years. And I feel like most people nowadays are like, yeah, if you're going to command the sexual enslavement of women, then you're just not the moral foundation of reality. Like, I feel like that is what we should expect. Like, that is the society that we want to move into. And a lot of people, especially Ken Hovind here, just doesn't want to do that. Like, they want to continue to treat women as sexual objects, and they want to continuously treat women, treat people in general as being insufficient unless they believe in their particular magician.
Yep, absolutely. And it's about time we sort of, just evolved, overcame this ridiculous adherence to traditions just because your ancestors used to do it. Doesn't make it a good thing. It absolutely does not.
We're getting there.
Totally.
Good. Getting there.
Here, while I still have time. How much time? Oh, okay. So that's the end of it. So I appreciate your time here. There was a lot that I didn't cover, like the magnetic field and how that works, how the fault lines work with basalt and magnetism, which I'm sure that he'll bring up. But I think that the Bible is lying to everybody. I don't think that it's telling the truth about.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here again. Yes, the Bible clearly teaches there was.
Sorry, there I cut it off a tiny bit early. I thought I got that one, but obviously not. But this is sort of now a rebuttal section. I think it sounds like a rebuttal section from when I was going through it. Is that the format of it, John?
Yeah, so like I had a rebuttal or I had an introduction, and then he had a rebuttal, and then I had a rebuttal, and so like it kept going back and forth.
And I love how you've been taking notes. That's always a big one for me. If you're debating Hovind, he will ask for one topic at a time, and then he will gish gallop. And it's sort of the one thing I've noticed about Hovind is when he says, "Hey, only one topic at a time," he's not talking about him. He's talking about you. Yeah. And he's quite happy to break the agreements that he's made in order to sort of, make you look bad. So yeah, I love that you're taking notes here.
Well, the Bible clearly teaches there was one.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I tried to take notes during the debate and like try to address everything that I could, but like a lot of times, there just wasn't enough time to cover everything that he said wrong, like in his statement, and so like you'll see me addressing things that like were either from his intro or from his rebuttal, and so like. I tried to address as much as I could, but like the general idea of creationists is that they are trying their best to like combat every single point that you make to the point where you're overwhelmed to address every single point. And so that's like, while I understand that they have a lot of points to make, I try to take it one point at a time. And some people make it out to be like a bad thing. Like I'm disingenuous for taking it one point at a time. And like, I just don't see that. I don't see how that's disingenuous. Like, I don't see how it's disingenuous to like take Kent Hovind a point at a time and like refute every single point. But like, they just seem to have this opinion that like I was being disingenuous in this point, or that I wasn't addressing every single point that he made.
Well, that's the thing that he's trying to do. That's the whole idea of Gish Gallop, is to load so many points that you can't address all of them. You know, because the flow of debate, it kind of is, where you'll address one point, they'll have a counter, and it kind of just moves on without addressing them. Now,
Right.
different people have different tactics for this. I know that AJ, Atheist Jr., he likes to interrupt Kent and going, let's just do that one point before we move on. And that's very effective. I'd write down every point and then force him to listen to me address every point before we move on. And that's very effective as well.
Right. And I think that that's a great way to do it. And some people work better with like addressing each point as it's brought up, like AJ does. And I think that's perfectly valid. And I think that that's perfectly structured. And so like how anybody decides to take on Kent Hovind and the points that he brings up is perfectly fine. But like, there are some people that expect you to like address every single point that Kent brings up in his introductory statement. And like, that's just not possible.
No, it's not possible. Yeah, he brings up so much stuff. I think it's designed not to be possible. And he'll accuse other people of using a scattergun approach or you know, a scattered approach, which is sort of what we're talking about here, is bringing up so many things. But I don't see that as a problem. You rarely ever get to address every single point in somebody's intro, especially if they bring up so many.
Under the crust of the earth. Psalm 24.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree about that. And just to say before we continue, like, there's a lot of people that expect you to like refute every single point that their interlocutor brings up, and that's just not possible. Like, especially when they gish gallop like formal debates allow. Like the formal debates, like what we're in right now, this is a formal debate. It allows Kent Hovind to gish gallop on a whole bunch of different topics that require a whole bunch of like exposition to like refute. And like, not a lot of people would consider that.
Well, what is it?
Brandolini's
law? Brandolini's, yeah, that's it. That's basically the whole idea that misinformation put out takes so much less energy than countering that misinformation. And I love that somebody's actually sort of quantified that, because it really does feel like that it does feel a bit like whack-a-mole, that you know, they just pop up and it takes so much energy to disprove them. I feel like that when it's sort of debates about evolution and genetics and stuff, it takes so much research to put them down, and then they make just some other dumbass claim off the top of their head, you know, and it's just like, we'll have to look up all of this genetic stuff to deal with that one. Yes,
exactly. Like in this particular debate, like we got into like how octopi like form the shells around their heads, and it's like, I didn't know that I was going to have to explain this very minute detail and how it's not caused by God. Like, I didn't know that I was going to have to do that. So I had to like think on my feet and everything. And so like, people criticize me for that, but it's like, I'm not a biologist. I'm a fucking software engineer. I've got a master's in software engineering. So like, I can think through Kent's arguments. I can think through how they don't make sense, but it's like, I don't know exactly how they don't make sense. And it's like, people count that against me.
Well, I don't, because here's the thing. They'll expect you to explain everything, including how octopus form freaking shells. And when you ask them how it's done in their worldview, they go, God.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so
Sorry, go ahead.
ridiculous. They could just invoke a fucking wizard and like everything's explained, but yet I've got to explain the minutia of like how shells are formed around a fucking octopus. It's like, it's just so crazy to me.
Go ahead, Embo. What were you going to say?
A couple of things. The first, Maya beat me to it. You, as an atheist, you're expected to have a PhD in literally every subject and subsubject. Yeah. If there's one thing you don't know, aha, therefore God. Like the Dr. Banjo clip that if evolution comes up, we may get to it later because it's fun and traditional. And, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry to piggyback off of what Ember is saying here. Like, people personally message me like on Facebook. Like, these are people that are quote unquote friends of mine that are like, you lost this debate. Like, you couldn't explain the things that Kent was saying. Like, you couldn't say the correct things that Kent was as a rebuttal to what Kent was saying. And so, like, it just it really fucks with me that people are like, oh, you lost to Kent Hovind. And it's like, I'm sitting there saying things that are rationally like established, while Kent is just appealing to magic. And it's just so frustrating to me to hear people say, oh, you lost to Kent Hovind. And like, that's just so unreasonable to me, considering the things that he's saying.
Yeah, and the problem is that and you see this a lot when you get actual experts come in, like when somebody like Dr. Dan comes in, they want to ask him questions about geology because he's an evolutionary biologist. When a geologist comes in, like, you know, Doc Dino or Beamsy, for instance, they want to ask them questions about evolution. They will always try and discuss the subjects that person doesn't know about, and it really shows their intentions. Robin Webster with $2. Sock stealing gnomes, Mark Reed. Yeah, no, my socks, I couldn't find one of them. Must have been the gnomes. It's
clearly it's evidence of gnomes, because how else could that possibly be?
If there were gnomes, we would expect socks to go missing. Socks go missing, therefore gnomes.
Bingo. We have solved the case.
That's affirming the consequent. Yeah, that's exactly what Kent's doing.
Hell yeah.
Founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. The crust of the earth was above the water, according to Psalm 24. He founded it upon the floods, Psalm 33. He layeth up the depth in storehouses. What is now the deep, the oceans, used to be stored in the crust of the earth. Psalm 136, similar. What he referred to, the hydroplate theory, I do strongly believe all the scientific evidence points to this being literally true.
The crust of the earth is what the Bible means when it says storehouses.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's not interpretation. Honestly, that's a direct reading.
Yeah. So the Bible says that God has storehouses of different forms of precipitation up in the heavens. So, like, they have storehouses of snow, they have storehouses of water for rain, and they have different storehouses for different forms of precipitation. So, like, you're sitting there telling me that, like, in the firmament, like, they have these different storehouses and they release them for certain situations? Like, this just doesn't make sense to me. Like,
the lightning, though. The lightning has to be rented.
The lightning, obviously, obviously the lightning has definite repercussions on precipitation. I definitely.
Scientifically accurate and plausible. There was a layer of water under the crust of the earth. There is still enormous amounts of water in the crust of the earth. They have underwater vents. When they got down to the bottom of the ocean in 1977, Jacques Cousteau discovered tens of thousands of underwater hot water vents shooting water up into the bottom of the ocean. Well, duh, it has to be coming from lower than that, or it can't be shooting up into the bottom of the ocean. There are tens of millions of hot water vents. So the Bible clearly teaches there was water in the crust of the earth. The scientific evidence shows us there is still water in the crust of the earth. And the Bible says the fountains of the great deep broke open. You asked, John, where did this pressure come from? Well, this is. I know you're an engineer, but you're a different kind of engineer. It's called gravity. Okay,
a different kind of engineer than what? Like seriously,
it's called gravity.
It's called gravity.
Oh shit.
How does gravity provide pressure? What? Maybe he's trying to say the gravity beneath the crust is higher for some reason. I don't. I'm very confused by this.
Wow. I wonder where. Never mind. I know where Kent thinks the water came from in the first place. Of course, there's water beneath the crust of the earth. It's the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, all the things above the actual granitic crust is because of outgassing. Because when planets form, they're very hot. And there's things moving around and mixing and so on, and pressures build up. And like we were discussing earlier, when you get too much pressure, when you have more pressure under the crust than the crust itself can hold back, it ruptures and the shit comes out. And if you did that on the moon today, there's no atmosphere. So what happens? The matter is held close to the surface, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. It won't go back underground, so it just kind of lingers there. That's how the atmosphere got here. That's where the water came from. It's all outgassing. For fuck's sake, Kent.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't understand this.
Oh, he doesn't understand a lot.
The planet is still outgassing.
Rock.
Look at this thing. What?
What does it say?
Fountain rupture phase. Really scientific there.
I mean, obviously, guys, like this is a scientific description of like how the waters erupted from the crust. Like, come on.
I seriously, I am feeling like you look in this picture. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I look like, what the fuck is he showing? Like, what the fuck is this?
This is evolution is just lines on paper, Hovind. You know, like, come on.
On top of water would exert pressure just by simple gravity. And if it can ever find a place to get out, it'll come squirting to the surface. A cubic foot of rock weighs about 160 to 180 pounds, depending what kind it is. And if you stack it up 10 miles high, you got 30 tons per square inch. Just simply gravity. There's your pressure. You mentioned pressure inside the earth. Well,
the one crack develops, you could launch rocks into outer space.
At least he believes in gravity.
Well, that's true. That's true. He's not a flat earther.
Yeah,
that is the one concession I'll make to the man. He's not a flat earther.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, missing mod.
no, it's just simple gravity pulling the rock down. Once the rock cracks and finds a place to, the water finds a place to escape, it'll launch things out into orbit. All you have to do is get up to escape velocity. At the surface, it's about 25,000 miles an hour and diminishes rapidly as you leave the effective gravitational pull of the Earth. So it's common sense. Maybe the craters on the moon were caused by stuff being blasted off of Earth and the moon eventually running into it. It is clear that the near side of the moon, the crater system is very different than the far side of the moon, indicating something was different back then. And there are huge craters all over the Earth, probably from the rocks that blasted out. So I cover all this on video number 2, which you can get and return.
In video number 2, buy my DVDs. But seriously, this is the Luna Bukaki thing. This is
my head.
Is
it hurts right here. Right here.
And even the piece of crap that is Steven Anderson sort of said, this is just nonsense. And yeah, it is. Like the force you would need to be able to send boulders into orbit. Oh, come on.
We have the actual meteorites from not the Barringer crater in Arizona. It's still believed that the remnant of the impactor is somewhere beneath the crater floor there, but we have lots and lots of meteor remnants. They're very extra. So, okay, I should back up. Every celestial body that we've ever found has a chemical signature, right? Like the Earth has a very high level of oxygen. The moon has aluminum oxide. And It varies. Using spectroscopy, we can generally get an idea of the elemental composition of a planet or other celestial body. Sometimes we'll even send probes to check it directly, which is really cool. The point is, the meteors and asteroids that we have collected are very, very definitely not from Earth.
Yes.
What the fuck, Kent?
Exactly.
No. So strange.
After you got to pay for it, then buy it, watch it, copy it, send it back. $50 for the whole series.
Buy my
membership would really help.
DVDs.
So you asked about where did the rocks come from? Where did the water go? John, it's still here. It's in the oceans. The oceans are huge. The oceans today cover 70% of the planet.
But
The oceans average
the whole
12,000 feet deep.
The whole planet. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
We're missing some.
my calculations are including the amount of water that's currently on the Earth, plus what would need to be added to cover like the highest peak on the Earth, as far as we understand. So
Yeah.
it just seems insurmountable, like the amount of water that he wants.
Yeah, we need we need the blood of Jesus to save our hypothesis.
Obviously, the blood of Jesus is needed.
It solves the problem, I must
Yeah,
admit.
Jesus
continent's
saves. We just
average-
didn't know how.
Yeah. That's how.
Less than 3,000 feet high. If you smoothed out the Earth right now, the water would be 8,000 feet deep everywhere. You said there's not enough water to cover the Earth. For heaven's sake, a cup of water would cover the Earth if you spread it real thin. I said years ago that one drop would cover the Earth if you spread it real thin. That's true, but you get down to just a few molecules per square centimeter. But it's true, one drop would
Right.
cover the Earth. So 8,000 feet of water.
One drop would
But
cover
that-
the Earth.
Right, but that doesn't cover like the mountains that reach like several thousand feet up. Like, we're not talking about like covering the entire Earth. We're talking about covering this the surface area of the Earth. Like, what
a
he's
depth, yeah.
saying, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it needs to have sufficient depth to reach the highest mountains because the Bible says that the highest mountains were covered. That's it. You
Mhm.
can't say one drop will do that because it will not do that.
That's yeah. I mean, well, a
Yeah.
really big drop.
I mean, it literally will not. Like, what he's saying is not what's represented in the Bible as far as he understands it.
Yeah.
Worldwide would be the average if the Earth were smoother. If you push the continents down, raise the ocean floors up. So where did the water go? It's still here. It's in the oceans. Come on down to Lenox, Alabama. We'll drive down to Pensacola Beach. I'll show it to you. And you can see where the water went from Noah's flood. I mentioned about this debate is really about geology and versus the Bible. I love earth science. I taught earth science for 15 years. Be glad to have a quiz on that.
That's not what he actually said. It's kind of catastrophism versus uniformitarianism is what more
Right.
accurate to say.
And I mean, I live in Alabama. I've been to Pensacola. Like, I've been to these places. Like, what he's saying just doesn't match what my experience is.
I don't think it matches what anybody's experience is. Like, so for a guy that says, "Hey, we've never seen a dog from a non-dog," have you ever seen a geyser shoot a boulder to the moon? No, I've never seen that.
I mean, obviously, Ken
If you like-
has for some reason.
Obviously,
Like, I don't understand that.
That's so fucking
But
trippy.
the
It is. It's weird. He's a weird
Yeah.
person. It's
'Cause,
so
like,
weird.
I'm rusty on the exact figures, but just to get off of the ground on Earth, you need a delta V of something like 40 kilometers a second.
Mhm.
We have to build fucking rockets that are powered by continuous explosions to generate enough force to do that. One
Yes.
poof. It's no, Kent. No, that's not there. No.
Mhm.
There's a site in Africa where there was a uranium deposit. It was dense enough that at some point in the past it had a natural meltdown. There was a natural nuclear disaster in the heart of Africa that did not have enough power to propel debris into orbit.
Yep.
catastrophism, the idea that there was a catastrophe, is not a dead debate at all. it was something that the uniformitarian guys, like the evolutionists, like James Hutton, you mentioned, they kind of took over the market here, but they just flat lied. I'll show you just a second here. I've only got 1 minute left. Slide 382. See, I've got over 10,000 slides, so it kind of helps if you ask the questions in the same order that I have the answer. Okay, there's James Hutton. He wrote a book, Theory of the Earth, 1795, the year before he died. He said the Earth is much older than everybody thinks. His book published 1795. This was also a time of many revolutions worldwide. People were trying to get rid of the king. It's called the age of anti-monarchy. Get rid of the king. America was involved. We got rid of the king.
Is it called
American
that?
Revolution, the French, the Spanish.
I don't think it's called that. I don't think that's what it's called. But yeah, there was a period of, at the start of the French Revolution, really. I don't know what this has got to do with geology and Noah's flood is beyond me. This seems like just so. Ken, if you don't know, he's a sovereign citizen, and he's aside from everything else, he's a conspiracy nut. He loves conspiracy theories, especially about himself, like that the government tried to take his DVDs away so people wouldn't see something in DVD 5 was just ridiculous. So yeah, it's kind of so stupid.
The Polish, the Italian. The Bible says to honor the king, and some people thought this was an obstacle to their political objectives. So they were looking for a way to demonize the Bible. And so most people thought the earth was a few thousand years old. James Hutton came along and said, no, it's millions of years old. He developed a dumb idea of uniformitarianism, which is that the present is the key to the past.
Shit.
No, the Bible's the only reliable key to the past. But I cover in my seminar all kinds of...
Did you see that? No, the Bible is the only perfect key to the past. This is what I was saying before. Like, between sort of what we observe and the Bible, they think the Bible wins. Ignore what you see. Ignore what you actually can study. Just believe the Bible.
Yeah, I relate so much to past GE. My guy, my brother in Undead Carpenter Ghosts. The fuck do you think religion is for? Why is there an imperial church in Rome? Why was there a power grab between Rome and Constantinople? Why did Henry VIII break off his own church and place himself at the head? The monarchs want religion because it's a really handy lever of control of the populace. None of them are pushing back at, we need to get rid of the Bible. It's, what the fuck do you mean? Religion props up monarchies. The divine right of kings. What the fuck?
That's how aristocracy in the feudal system works. That the church, sort of makes the monarch the monarch. They're the one that crowns him. Like the entire system has the clergy working with the monarchy. Like, they're not opposed to one another.
Seminar part 4 lies in the textbook about the crazy geologic column, which does not exist any place on the planet except in the textbooks. I'm in a room full of textbooks here. Come on down, I'll show it to you. There is no geologic column, John. It doesn't exist. The flood formed all those layers in 1 year. All right, time's up.
And he reckons that the Grand Canyon formed in a week. That's how low on reality the man is. He thinks that the Grand Canyon was just water pressure slicing through, dense limestone in a week.
I love it when they bring up the Grand Canyon. I mean, his son Eric makes an absolutely fantastic argument about the Grand Canyon. All the layers, all the geologic layers deposited by the flood. Also, the flood carved the Grand Canyon. And we know that because there's something like 1,500 meters of layers missing over the top of the Grand Canyon, which was both being deposited by the flood and eroded by the flood at the same time.
I don't understand how that works.
Never mind that. Yeah, it's magic.
Sorry, John. If you need to contribute something, go for it.
No. I was just gonna say exactly like everything that Ember's saying is exactly the point that I'm trying to make.
Much we appreciate it, and now we will go into the rebuttal from Godless Engineer.
No, this is what I'm
John, I have the clock set for you, and I will start on your first word.
Woof.
I think we might have you on mute yet. I'll reset the timer. Go ahead.
All right, so that was painful.
Yeah.
So now, starting from back when Kent first started in his opening there, Kent starts out with his entire basis for why he thinks the Earth is 6,000 years old and why a flood actually happened. That would be because the Bible says. And that's ultimately what Kent leans on here to justify his idea that an actual flood existed. And then he moves on from that position to find evidence in reality that seems to support his position, even if he has to distort that. Like, for instance, saying the rock cycle isn't a real thing. I don't know what that was about, but that's just ridiculous. He also stated how people used to live to about 1,000 years old or something like that. That's actually not supported by anything that we have, like in either biology or history in general. It's not supported anywhere other than in the Bible, because the Bible says. Then he said the thing about whether or not you think that the Bible is lying. Of course, I think the Bible's not necessarily lying. Sorry, maybe that was a little bit of a gotcha kind of statement, because I don't think that the Bible was meant to record history. I think that it was meant to teach theology. And when you're looking,
and I love this. You're separating, what we know scientifically from what the Bible was supposed to do. This is really good. I like this, because it's basically saying, hey, it was just people understood things differently back then. We don't have the knowledge that we do now. Why would we? Why would Iron Age people?
Yeah, exactly.
Teach theology.
And Iron Age people would not understand the fossil record or the geologic column or anything like that. They would just give events as they saw them.
Instead of history, you don't get history. But a lot of people want to read history into theology.
Correct.
So, and then he talks about the 350 flood legends. Just because there's a lot of flood legends out there doesn't mean that the flood actually happened or that the Bible is correct. I'm sure floods have happened like all over the earth. People have come up with floods or have experienced floods in probably just about every continent. He talked about the rounded gravel. That's got a very easy explanation of water erosion. And then he talked about the Earth spinning at 900 miles per hour at a certain thing as a way that these rocks would have become rounded off. And I don't know why you think that whatsoever. For one thing, the reference frame of the Earth would have the rocks moving at the exact same speed, so it wouldn't feel any kind of change in velocity or whatnot, other than whatever forces are acting on it.
So you're talking about the inertial reference frame here, that they would still have exactly the same momentum as the rest of the planet. Yes, absolutely.
It's moving along with the Earth. Also, because I do a lot of flat Earth debunking, I know that the speed from a reference frame outside of the Earth is not applicable to a reference frame on the Earth. So on the Earth is spinning at like 0.000 something rotations per minute. So it's moving very, very slow.
15 degrees per hour. It's incredibly slow. Like if you spin something 15 degrees per hour and take 24 hours to rotate it, it's not going fast at all.
Thanks, Bob.
And we don't. Thanks, Bob. And we don't measure rotation in miles per hour. That's not how we measure it. That's just silly.
That particular thing just doesn't make sense whatsoever when you consider reality. And then you're talking about the geologic column forming quick, or all those layers of the geologic column forming quick. And then you said that the geologic column doesn't actually exist later on. So maybe you can explain what you mean there.
John, we lost you, I think.
Okay. We lost your sound here?
Hear me?
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Sorry.
So the geologic column is an actual thing. You can actually go and you can see it. And the reason why we know that this is a thing that happens is because it's what we observe in reality. It also matches everything else that we find in reality, like the radioactive decay rates and how fast that happens for particular elements. And you can run those on the particular layers, and you can double check to see, that this is actually that old.
Yeah, so Kent loves doing this, putting up like slides that refute his opponent while he's going along, and it's kind of pretty annoying, and kind of pretty dodgy, to be honest with you. It's just a dishonest way to sort of have a debate, because he's trying to take focus off what John's saying. But John made the notes. He's addressing every point one by one. I don't like people that saying that, hey, he did a bad job. I don't see it. Like he's addressing every single point. Not that, hey, we don't just find in textbooks. There is a ton of literature and geology that actually show us that this is true, and radiometric dating, all the various different techniques, is absolutely one of them. I don't At the moment, I don't think John deserves criticism for this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, all Kent's got to use for his dishonest refutation is another unsourced assertion, which itself is demonstrably not true.
Now, you do get a date range because of how imperfect the dating is, but you do get a pretty good range, and it is not in the thousands of years. It's actually in the millions of years old. You talked about underwater caverns. Yeah, underwater caverns exist and they have water in them. I would say that that's a product of gravity pulling water down as far as it can. Like if there's a cavern that water can get into, it's going to fill it. So I don't know what that was supposed to prove. Again, with the 8,000 feet of water being able to cover the Earth, you talked about how a drop of water could cover the entire Earth. While true, that doesn't mean that the entire Earth was flooded. Yep. Also, my calculations for how much extra water would be needed, like the volume of extra water was needed, includes the current diameter of the Earth, which would include sea level. So it would already include how much water is on the Earth. I'm saying you need on top of the water that's already here, you wouldn't need that much. So that's the explanation for that. Now, in your little diagram of the water...
I think he's got time. Was that James?
It's actually a time.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
No, sorry.
And that's the thing. Like, John's going through trying to refute every single point that Kemp brought up, but Kemp brought up so freaking many that it's really hard to get to all of them, right? So this isn't John's fault. He just keeps throwing out crap. Like, you've got to basically be incredibly quick to get through all of that. And I honestly don't think there was enough time. I don't think there was enough time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but...
I couldn't have done it faster. I mean, maybe if I were trying to speedrun, but to present the information in a way that actually connects, I mean, John did fine.
Yeah. I don't know what the problem is. Yeah, he didn't have enough time to refute every single one of the 10 million points that Kent brought up. Yeah, that happens in debate. Why is that John's fault? I don't understand.
That may be the issue that people watching at the time had, is they didn't realize that's what a gish gallop is. That's how it works.
Well,
now we're more familiar.
Well, technically, you don't really gish gallop in an introduction. You bring up multiple points in introduction for discussion, but people talk about scattershot, where in the introduction you bring up so many points, and flat earthers do this a lot, so many points you couldn't possibly cover them all, kind of thing. Like, we understand that it's not really gish gallop because you're really not you're expected to bring up multiple points in the introduction. That's normal. That's perfectly normal. So I wouldn't call it gish gallop, but yeah, it's not. Don't blame John for not being able to get, because, Kent Hovind brought up all these points, and he is not happy. He is not happy with the rebuttal at all. So, keep that in mind.
I realize that myself. I'm trying to keep up with the questions coming in. With that, we will go to the open discussion. So anybody, if you have your questions, feel free to put them in the live chat, and I will try my very hardest to get to all of them. We have kind of doing a short and sweet spiel today. So we really won't get to all of them, but we're going to try to go as fast as we can. So for the open discussion, we've got about 20 minutes, and starting the timer now. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
The floor is whose? His or mine? And are we discussing the questions, or what he just said? Another rebuttal?
This is just open discussion.
Yeah, it's an open discussion. I just used a lot of time, so if you want to ask me a question or explain something to me, as long as it doesn't go too long, I mean, I would say go ahead and ask.
You made quite a few, I would say, false statements about me. You accused me of being distorting things and being dishonest. I resent that greatly, and I think that's slander on your part. You said my only basis for believing...
Okay, so this is Kent that goes, oh, atheists are lying about this, and they're lying about that, and they're sort of doing this and doing that, and they're what do you say? That it doesn't have any record of that. It only says it in the textbooks, implying that they just made it up in the textbook. Like, this man accuses everybody of being dishonest. Come on now.
Seriously? Kettle.
Oh yeah. The projection, the irony.
It's not even.
Irony? I need some irony in the chat. I really do. I need that irony. Oh my.
Yeah, it's not even pot meat kettle. It's the pot calling the silverware You know,
Yeah.
like, what are we doing here?
Oh,
here's some
your
irony.
guess is as good as mine. Nice.
I knew I had one of those around here.
Yeah.
As the Bible says, and I clearly showed you that is not correct. I do believe the Bible is true, but that is only one. All the scientific evidence also points to there being a worldwide flood. All the historical evidence points to there being a flood. So don't say I only use the Bible for this. That's a way for you to cop out of giving an honest answer. I gave you
No. I'm not trying to cop out of giving an honest answer. Can I address this real quick?
Sure. I gave 9 reasons why. One of them was the Bible.
Okay. No. If you actually listen to what I said,
Jesus believes it was another one. I mean, are you serious right now? Boy.
that the basis of your belief is the Bible. Now, I'm kind of curious if you found evidence.
But John's not wrong, because fundamentally it is the Bible, what the Bible says, that is the very foundation. So I don't think John's wrong. He's going to the foundation of Kent's belief, and Kent takes the Bible first and sort of evidence second. So what I'd be doing is sort of saying, but isn't it true that all of your evidence has the foundation of the Bible, which Kent probably won't admit to, but we know that's the case, right? From his other stuff.
You know, now that we're more than 2 hours in, it's only people who actually want to watch this that are still here. So I feel comfortable saying, fun fact, in case you ever get into a pinch and just want to shut down a dipshit bullshit nonsense argument like Kent Hovind, you can just point out that Jesus didn't believe the Bible.
Well, he was Jewish. So
exactly. He was not a Christian. Yeah, he was down with the Old Testament, but he did not subscribe to Mark or Matthew or Luke or John or any of the epistles. None of these things did Jesus himself preach, so why should Kent?
I agree.
And we don't have the gospel of Jesus either. So there's that.
Reality that the Bible was wrong in some kind of way in this context, would you say that the Bible is always correct, or would you say that the Bible is wrong in that instance?
If you can find evidence that shows the Bible is wrong, I will admit it was wrong. If I can show you evidence the Bible is right, or that evolution is wrong, or that the geological is wrong, will you change, John?
Oh, the audio just
The problem is
went wonky.
Yeah,
I thought it was Kent for a second, but
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got to close and reopen Chrome. I'll be back in 1 second. Feel free to chat among yourselves. I might just wait 1 second.
You know,
All right.
honestly, this doesn't surprise me coming from Kent. Like, his apologetic arguments, like they don't surprise me anymore.
Oh yeah, his whole thing, the whole reason he does this shtick is because it ultimately boils down to Bible. As long as you're talking about fringe conspiracy theory nonsense, whether it's, you know, the Bukkake lunar nonsense, or the flood, or the dome, or any of this shit, you're on the defensive. You're defending science. You're pushing back on his God invading everything, but you're not addressing whether Jesus was a real person. You're not addressing whether there's any warrant to worship this being, even if he was. It's a Mott and Bailey kind of thing.
And it's kind of, he'll make these statements so fast, it's really difficult to sort of say, well, I'm going to refute all of this stuff. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's very, very strange. I'm trying to find where we're up to. My bad. Sorry, StreamYard does this occasionally. It really annoys me, but I should be able to.
I feel you on this one.
Yeah.
Are you okay to continue, John, or do you want to call it there? I'm more than happy to. You know, I know it's sort of getting late up your end, so I'm more than happy to call it if you want to. I would like to get to the dork, but you know, are you happy to continue?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good for a few minutes. I'm trying to get to the part where he mentions the whale penis. Like that's my goal, but
Well, we could call it here and do a part 2 on Ember's channel because we switch channels each week. And if you would like to come back next week to Ember's channel.
yeah, I mean, I could totally do that, but
Okay.
it's up to y'all.
No, well, I mean, it's sort of. I'm not sure if we're going to get through the whole thing in this session. So another one on Ember's channel might be a really, really good thing. If you do feel a bit tired or whatever, we can call it here.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's up to y'all.
Yeah.
I'm good to call it, or I'm good to continue on. Like either way. I know that we're only about maybe half the way through. So.
Yeah, about halfway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we just call it here and do a part 2 like we always do because. But at the moment, John, I'll tell you, I don't see any problem with the way that you've addressed Ken. Like people saying,
Right.
hey, you didn't get to all of the things he brought up as introduction. Ember and I were just saying, like you were running through the points one by one. You obviously took notes, knowing what he brought up and running through them one by one. I wouldn't be able to make it through all his points either. Right? There's no way. You do not have the time to go through each and every one.
Right.
Absolutely not. And that is my honest opinion. I think, and we sort of were talking about it and sort of saying, hey, if you speed run and go, blah, 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 and absolutely, go flat out, you possibly could have got through all of them, but you would not be able to go into the detail that you went into. It would be impossible. Impossible. You'd have to just sort of, just say things as sort of catch points and then move on. So I don't see a problem with that. Kent's opening was designed so you couldn't get through it all. I don't know why that's your fault. So far,
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
see why you deserve any criticism whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I try to address, everything that Kent said, and I try to take it one by one, and it's like it's not my fault that Kent says a whole bunch of bullshit that takes a whole lot more time to refute than it takes for him to just say it, and so like that, I guess that's my position.
Yeah, no, and I think that's fair. I think that's 100% fair. I don't see a problem with that. And I've experienced the same myself. I've been in a debate, haven't been able to get through, the flat earth, or who was that guy talking about the heart-shaped rocks as being fossilized hearts? Howard
Roger?
Stirrup. No,
Howard,
Stirrup.
yeah.
Oh my, he will say like 50 million insane things all in a row in his introduction, and you're like, where do I even start? Like, and I couldn't get through all of them. It's totally fair. But I want to say thank you for joining us, to John. It's really a pleasure. Love to have you back next week. Next week, we're going to be on Ember's channel, and I'm not sure if Pragmatic Crystal, who usually does our links, because they are awesome, is still around. So I'll grab Ember's channel for everybody. Ember and I, we do my channel, her channel, my channel, her channel. We just switch every single week. So part 2s happen all the time. Don't think that that's you, John. Honestly, it's us. We've got too much to say. But that's Ember's channel. But an absolute pleasure to have you on. It's been awesome. And, nice to see that Hovind has not changed in like 5 to 10. Like, it's exactly the fucking same. Like, seriously.
I mean, obviously, apologists like Kent Hovind is not going to change. Like over the years. So I mean, like he's got the same arguments that he had then that he has now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I made up a term. Another person mentioned in chat, so I don't know if people had the same idea or it got around. I don't know, but I call it the Hovind hustle. He will just, it's like a gish gallop, but a lot more dishonest. So the Hovind hustle, and he does it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like that's exactly what he did in this debate.
So what are you up to in the future, John? What have you got coming up, mate?
I mean, I've just been doing a lot of conversations, like on, I've been going on TikTok and having conversation with people, and so like I'm pretty much just focused on doing that right now. Like I don't have a lot of interest in I guess addressing a lot of the videos that have been coming out, just because like they're all the same shit, like it's all the same talking points. And so like I primarily focus on like interacting with like real people and what they really think about like God and like all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of focus on that.
Do you do politics as well? I think I noticed sort of political ones as well, where you were talking to people, you know, sort of why they sort of wanted to vote for Trump and stuff.
Yeah, I've done that a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
And I mean that really kind of plays into the whole Christian nationalist thing that America is experiencing right now. Like as far as like why people want to vote for Trump and like why they think that Trump is better for the nation, it all boils down to Christian nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No, that's fair. All right, fantastic. Well, I'm going to drop a link for Godless Engineer in the chat again. Please do go and check him out and you know, subscribe, because he does some amazing stuff. And I love his approach to talking with people, trying to find out what makes them tick. It's really good. Ember, what have you got coming up?
Oh goodness, so very many things. So first of all, the new channel is live right now. It's the Association of Skeptics and Humanists. And yeah, we're doing a 24-hour stream with some content to introduce people to Joe the Kentucky Atheist, and that's going to wrap with an actual live interview on that channel and my channel, Atheist Live Show, which both Joe and Mark have been on. John was on last year. We should chat again sometime, because I have more thoughts on mythicism, but another time we could get to that. Shoot, there's
Definitely.
Yeah, there's so much stuff. But for sure, catch me on Transpositions News on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. Bunch of stuff.
Your other channel, what was that called? Humanism. Oh dear, I'm mucking it up.
It's the Association of Skeptics and Humanists, because it makes ash. It's Ember's ash. See, it's funny that way. All my links are on betterthanember.com, because I have too many damn channels.
You're so good with that kind of stuff. You know, like ash and emberships and things. I'm really jealous of your way to spin the English language, my dear. I really am. Like it's so good. I just like alliteration, and I like English language stuff. Yeah, so I've basically got coming up. I've got a Room Rumble to release with the particularly obnoxious Christian. As per usual, I run into them a lot. You know, for some reason I attract them like flies to crap. I don't know why. I do have Aimbot, which is basically Am I the Arsehole on Wednesdays, my Wednesdays, your Tuesday nights. It is going to get confusing. And I'll be back on Ember's next time. I've got stuff on my channel. Check it out. But do check out Ember, and definitely check out John at Godless Engineer. Really good stuff. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. Really appreciate it. John, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Hopefully we can see you next week. If you're too busy, I get it, but I'd love to see you and do this again, because this is a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I love to come back on next week. So definitely just get with me, and we'll figure it out.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Well, don't forget, as I always say, do be kind to yourself. Don't engage with people like Kent too often. It'll rot your brain. Like, really. Don't be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. Thank you so much for coming, and I will, as always, see you in the next one.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
folks.